Share your screen with the audience. I thought it was. Uh, wait, what? No, cancel that. What are we doing here? Why isn't this? Why isn't this working? Oh, hello, guys. Whoever comes in. Anyways, I'm gonna read. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. It's this one. Okay, let me go back. This is chapter one of the book that I'm writing on an AI on type.ai. It's an assisted AI writing tool which writes for you but takes your suggestions and makes them, you it's still your. I came up with a story, but it's putting all of the things, writing it for me pretty much. It's pretty cool. Anyways, I'm gonna read this. The last thing Jacob remembered was the screech of metal tearing free from brick. He'd been walking home from his shift at Vinyl Dreams, the record store on Maple Street where he'd worked for the past 2 years. It was a Tuesday night, unremarkable in every way. The air had that late autumn chill that made him pull his jacket tighter. His headphones were in playing some obscure jazz fusion album a customer had recommended. He remembered thinking about whether he should order Thai food or just make ramen when he got home. He remembered thinking about Alan, his golden retriever, probably sprawled across the couch waiting for him. Then came the screech. Jacob had looked up just in time to see the air conditioning unit plummeting from the fourth floor window above. There was no time to move, no time to think, just a flash of white hot pain and then nothing, or so he thought. The first sensation that returned was discomfort. Something was poking him repeatedly in the ribs. Poke, poke, poke. Jacob's consciousness swam up through layers of darkness like a drowning man climbing toward the surface. His body felt heavy, wrong somehow, as if he'd been sleeping for days. The poking continued, insistent and annoying. Poke, poke, poke. I don't even know if you can hear me. I don't know if you can hear me. Is this on? Okay. Stop, he mumbled, his voice thick and unfamiliar in his own ears. The poking didn't stop. Jacob's eyes cracked open, and immediately he knew something was catastrophically wrong. The sky above him wasn't the polluted orange gray of the city at night. It was a deep, crystalline blue, scattered with clouds that seemed too white, too perfect. The air smelled different, rich with earth and vegetation, completely absent of car exhaust and garbage. Poke, poke, poke. I said stop. Jacob sat up abruptly, swatting at whatever was jabbing him. His hand connected with the branch, a long, thin tree branch that someone was holding. Jacob's eyes followed the branch to the hand gripping it, then up the arm, and finally to the face of the creature holding it. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. The creature standing before him had the unmistakable features of a dog, a golden furred canine face with a black nose, expressive brown eyes, and pointed ears that stood erect on top of its head. But the resemblance to a dog ended there. The creature stood upright on two legs, easily 6 feet tall, with a humanoid body covered in the same golden fur. It wore simple cloth pants and a vest, and its hands, though they had paw pads, possessed opposable thumbs that gripped the branch with clear dexterity. The creature was staring at him with an intensity that made Jacob's skin crawl. Jacob, the creature said, its voice rough but unmistakably speaking his name. Jacob scrambled backward, his heart hammering. What? Who? He couldn't form a coherent sentence. His mind was reeling, trying to process what he was seeing. This had to be a dream, a hallucination. Maybe he was in a coma in some hospital, his brain conjuring bizarre fantasies while his body lay broken beneath an air conditioner. But the ground beneath his hands felt real. The cool air on his skin felt real. The creature standing before him, still holding that damn branch, felt impossibly undeniably real. Jacob, the creature repeated, taking a step closer. Stay back, Jacob held up his hands defensively. I don't know what's happening. Where am I? What are you? The creature tilted its head, and something about the gesture struck Jacob as familiar, though he couldn't place why. It raised the branch ahead. It raised the branch again. Don't you dare, Jacob warned. Poke. I'm warning you. Poke, poke. Stop poking me with a branch, Jacob exploded, lurching to his feet. His legs felt shaky, but anger gave him strength. Who are you anyway? What is this place? What? He stopped mid sentence because the creature had dropped the branch. Its ears, those distinctly canine ears, had flattened against its head. Its tail, which Jacob only now noticed, had tucked between his legs. The creature's entire posture had shifted into something unmistakable, the body language of a scolded dog. A soft, mournful whine escaped the creature's throat. Jacob's anger evaporated instantly, replaced by a creeping sense of recognition. That posture, that whine, he'd seen it 1,000 times before, usually after coming home to find his shoes chewed or the trash knocked over. Alan? The name escaped Jacob's lips before he could stop it. The creature's ears perked up immediately. No, Jacob said, shaking his head. That's impossible. Alan is my dog. He's at home. He's But even as he spoke, he was studying the creature more carefully. The golden fur, the brown eyes, the way it held itself, waiting for his next command with that particular mixture of hope and anxiety. Sit, Jacob said, the word coming out automatically, born from years of habit. The creature sat immediately, its tail beginning to wag, sweeping the forest floor behind it. Jacob's legs gave out. He sank to his knees, staring at the creature at Alan with a mixture of disbelief and dawning comprehension. Is your name Alan? The tail wagging intensified, becoming a blur of golden fur. The creature's Alan's entire body seemed to vibrate with joy. Despite everything, the impossibility of the situation, the fear still coursing through his veins, the complete absence of any logical explanation, Jacob felt his face break into a smile. It was Alan, somehow impossibly. It was his dog, his loyal, goofy, beloved golden retriever who had been waiting for him at home when he left for work that night. That night, the memory crashed back into Jacob like a second air conditioner. The screech of metal, the falling unit, the impact. He died. He must have died, and now he was where? And Alan was here, but not as a dog, as this humanoid creature that could stand and speak. And Alan, Jacob said again, his voice breaking, how are you here? How am I here? Alan's tail slowed, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that no dog should possess. Master Jacob, this world is called Trinity. Jacob blinked. Alan could talk. Of course, Alan could talk. Why wouldn't his dog be able to talk in whatever fever dream or afterlife or alternate dimension this was? Trinity, Jacob repeated numbly. Alan nodded, a distinctly human gesture that looked strange on his canine features. This part of the world we are in now is the vine forest. He gestured around them, and for the first time, Jacob really looked at his surroundings. They were in a forest, but not like any forest Jacob had ever seen. Trees were massive, their trunks easily 20 feet in diameter, stretching up into a canopy so thick it created a twilight atmosphere, despite the bright sky visible through gaps in the leaves. Vines as thick as Jacob's arm wound around everything, some of them glowing with a faint bio bioluminescence. Strange flowers bloomed in impossible colors, deep purples that seemed to shimmer, blues so bright they hurt to look at, reds that pulsed like beating hearts. This is the worst place to be, Alan continued, his voice taking on an urgent tone. Creatures as strong here are strong here, and I can't take on many of them without my tribe to help me. Your tribe? Jacob asked, still trying to process the word creatures and what that might mean. Alan's expression and Jacob was Alan's expression and Jacob was startled to realize he could read expressions on that canine face shifted to something proud and tender. There are many factions that are much stronger than my tribe. We are called the dog tribe, and in my tribe I am with wife. We have many puppies, his tail wagged slightly. They are all of your family, Master Jacob. The words hit Jacob like a physical blow. Alan had a wife, puppies, a whole life in this place. How long had he been here? How was any of this possible? Alan, Jacob said slowly, where is your tribe? Where's your family? The change in Alan was immediate and devastating. His ears flattened again, but this time not in submission, in grief. His tail stopped wagging entirely, hanging limp behind him. They were taken, Alan said, his voice rough with emotion. All of them. My wife, my puppies, the elders, the young ones, everyone. Taken? Jacob felt his chest tighten. Taken by who? Human traffickers. Alan spat the words like a curse. They raid our villages, capture our people. They take us as slaves to work in the mines and fields. They make us maids to work in their homes. His voice broke. My puppies are so young, Master Jacob. They are just children. Something ignited in Jacob's chest. It was a feeling he'd rarely experienced in his quiet, calm life. A burning, righteous fury that seemed to fill every cell of his body. The image of Alan's children being dragged away to work as slaves made his blood boil. That's Jacob started to say, but he never finished the sentence. The sky above them split open with light. A bolt of lightning, massive and impossibly bright, tore through the canopy and struck one of the giant trees not 50 feet from where they stood. But this wasn't normal lightning. It was silver white, crackling with an energy that made the air itself scream. The tree, one of the largest Jacob had seen, easily 100 feet tall and ancient beyond measure, didn't just catch fire, it exploded. The trunk shattered into splinters, the force of the blast sending chunks of wood the size of cars flying in every direction. The sound was deafening, a, a crack of thunder that seemed to shake the very ground beneath Jacob's feet. Where the tree had stood, there was now only a smoking crater and the smell of ozone so strong it made Jacob's eyes water. Jacob stared at the destruction, his ears ringing, his mind blank with shock. Then slowly he became aware of a tingling sensation in his hands. He looked down and saw faint traces of silver light dancing across his fingertips, fading even as he watched. What? He whispered. What was that? He looked up at Alan and found his dog, his friend, staring at him with an expression of pure awe. Alan's eyes were wide, his mouth slightly open, his entire body rigid with what looked like hope. Master Jacob, Alan breathed. You have power? Real power? I didn't. Jacob looked at his hands again, then at the crater where the trees had been. Did I do that? But even as he asked, he knew the answer. He'd felt it, that surge of rage and protective fury when Alan spoke of his captured family, and somehow, impossibly, that emotion had manifested as destruction. Alan dropped to one knee, his head bowed. Master Jacob, I knew you were special. I knew when I found you that you were meant to be here. But this, He looked up and there were tears in his eyes. You can save them. You can save my family. You can save all of us. Jacob's mind was reeling. Power. He had power, enough power to obliterate a tree that had probably stood for centuries, but how? Why? He was just he was just Jacob, the quiet guy who sold records and went home to his dog every night. He wasn't a hero, he wasn't powerful, he was dead. The thought came to him with sudden clarity. He died on that sidewalk in his old life, and somehow he'd been brought here to this world called Trinity with abilities he didn't understand and couldn't explain. But as he looked at Alan, at his loyal companion who had somehow ended up in this world too, who had built a life and a family only to have it torn away, Jacob felt something shift inside him. Maybe he didn't understand what was happening. Maybe he didn't know why he was here or how he could summon lightning from the sky. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. We are getting them back, Jacob said, his voice steady despite the chaos of his thoughts. Your family, your tribe, we are going to free them. Alan's tail began to wag again, slowly at first, then faster. Master Jacob. Just Jacob, he interrupted. I don't know what's happening or why I'm here, but I have this power. He looked at his hands again, remembering the feeling of that rage, that protective fury. Then we are going to use it. No one should be enslaved, especially not children. Alan stood, and for the first time since Jacob had woken in this strange world, he felt like he had a purpose. He didn't understand Trinity. He didn't understand his power. He didn't understand how he'd gone from dying on a sidewalk to standing in a magical forest with his dog turned humanoid companion. But he understood injustice and he understood loyalty. Tell me everything, Jacob said. Where are they being held? How many traffickers are there? What do we need to do? As Alan began to speak, laying out the situation in detail, Jacob felt that tingling in his hands again. The silver light flickered briefly across his skin before fading. Somewhere deep inside him, and in a place he couldn't quite reach, something vast and powerful stirred. He didn't know it yet, but that power had a name, Divine Trinity, and he had spent 3 years mastering it in a place called the Celestial Palace, training until he'd achieved the impossible and became the rank one cultivator in all the realms. He didn't remember any of it, but the power remembered him. And as the sun began to set over the vine forest, casting long shadows through the massive trees, Jacob took his first steps toward a destiny he couldn't imagine, a destiny that would shake the foundations of Trinity itself. All because a man loved his dog and a dog loved his master. And because sometimes the universe needs a hero who doesn't know he's supposed to be one. Okay, well, I'm gonna end the live here, and maybe I'll do another one later. I don't even know if this is even being if it's I don't know if the voice is on or not. This could suck if it isn't, and I'm gonna have to do it all over again. I'm gonna end the stream. But anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to nothing or listening to something. I don't know. I haven't changed any of the settings, so I don't know what you guys are hearing or what you're not hearing. So, and nobody's watching me. So, goodbye, later, and future self. If you're looking at this and there's no voice, oh well, you can't hear me anyways. Goodbye.